Okay, I totally screwed this up. I left it too zoomed in. The angle totally sucks. Here's the podcast.
So going back to the original question, as you said, like who's the audience or different things like that. Like I kind of hope that number one, it's almost selfishly because I like to have cool conversations with people that I find interesting or that I gain value from, such as yourself. And we'll just kind of use this to roll into the start of it, I guess.
Yeah, that's fine.
And so I feel like that is selfishly just trying to do that, collect all those cool experiences, have those conversations. Number two, just bring some sort of value to the audience. Well, obviously, we as affiliate owners and as a coach and everything else, I tend to lean towards that, but also just the fitness industry in a total. And for the reason why I'm not trying to pigeonhole myself too much. That's why I try to make some of the videos outside of just the CrossFit, situation things. But I feel a lot of those go unheard. And
Yeah, the stuff I enjoy talking about is obviously personal experiences because it's easy to talk about my own personal experiences, but personal experiences related to affiliate ownership and affiliate management simply because I think a lot of it is misunderstood and misinterpreted, and helping people understand that might encourage more people to want to go into it. Or step out of their other careers and go into it, or it might give some people that have a rational exuberance about becoming an affiliate owner to be more thoughtful about the process. I think we are right now within CrossFit seeing that with the number of affiliates, the large number of affiliates struggling, the lack of business experience starting to show itself, or not the lack of business experience, the expectations being all of a sudden faced with reality, and those hyped expectations then
was easy before. Now it got real.
It got really hard.
Yeah. And almost like the 9-to-5ers that also have a job outside of their CrossFit affiliate that maybe they, this isn't their sole source of income. They're also doing other things like that. It became exponentially harder.
That's right.
To your point, like you were saying, and maybe not necessarily like the lack of business experience, but all of a sudden it became a very real business.
Yeah.
As before, you could kind of get your L1, you get it started, the brand would kind of carry itself.
Right, and the gym would pay for itself, and this
Right.
was Diablo in the early days. It was essentially, look, if we were able to pay my partner a livable wage and keep the doors open and have a place for us all to come and do CrossFit in that was fun, that was great.
It was perfect.
It was right.
Yeah.
We didn't have an exit strategy. It was an existence strategy. Yeah. And that and I think a lot of and that's what a lot of people confuse CrossFit gyms with, as these venture opportunities to generate a massive income, or the opportunity maybe to sell it down the road for a huge exponential number. And the reality is far from that. Most CrossFit owners get into it. Most affiliate owners that I know got into it because they're passionate about helping people.
Right.
If it pays them a livable wage, or an extra income because they have another job, and they have a gym that is, quote, theirs, right?
Right.
Then that's all they need.
Right.
Unfortunately, when you hit a situation like we are in now, where your membership drops off dramatically, and then you're faced with, I still have that lease obligation, and
bills are still coming.
Then it becomes a stress point that outweighs the reward that you had. All of a sudden, now having a garage gym at home looks a lot better than having
with another gym with a huge expense tied to it.
Yeah.
So do you us being in California, obviously receiving the most severe of all the punishment, and like we talked about before, we were saying like the COVID kind of will at some point very soon will timestamp us into a time that once was. But do you feel when this whole thing shakes out, let's see the clouds kind of part come summer and we're allowed to operate in some sort of capacity indoors, do you feel a lot of the affiliates will still be there when the dust settles, or do you think we're gonna see quite a few of them close down? I
think we're going to see more close down. There's already been quite a few of them that have. My own personal expectation with respect to the business that's going to come is that it's going to be enormous. that, unfortunately, is also fraught with challenge. As you and I think about a whole bunch of customers all of a sudden wanting to come into the gym and working out, especially with newer protocols that we have to have in place.
Right.
I get a little stressed.
Right. The logistics of trying to manage that.
Logistics of trying to manage it. We had that in September when we were allowed to open indoors. We tried to figure out, how am I going to get all these people? We had a lot of people that wanted to come in, and we were thinking, how am I going to get these people trained so that they can be ready to go into class?
Right.
And we were struggling with that. We actually went back to something we hadn't done in 5 years, which was elements classes.
Yeah.
The result, we got people through it. They were not as good at customers when they got to class. So my point being that I don't see the hope for great business as a result of being open and the pandemic being over. I don't see that being enough to keep affiliates afloat, because it comes with the additional stress of, how am I going to manage this? How am I going to do this? And then what if it comes back again, right?
Yeah.
And then I got to go through this again. I think a lot of people right now have reached that the pandemic threshold. And a lot of affiliate owners that have been in this 5-6 years and going month to month with their rent and their income are likely highly over it. Yeah. And if there's a window of opportunity to forego rent, or to waive rent, or their landlords are letting them out, I think a lot of affiliates are going to take it. Yeah, I think the number of affiliates is definitely smaller, and I think a number of gyms will survive, but probably won't pay the affiliation fee. It's not. It won't be worth it for them to continue that.
That's something that I've kind of been thinking about too, because as you said, as it doesn't become fun anymore, or all those little perks of owning your own gym all of a sudden become real liabilities that are starting to stress you financially and mentally and everything else.
Right.
I wonder, when we're talking about cutting corners, there's a few things that you could shed right away. Insurance isn't one of them. A lease on your building isn't one of them. But technically, the licensing fee could be. And so a lot of gyms are re-examining that, I would imagine, as well as every expense on that balance sheet.
Yeah.
But I also do believe that there will be a kind of a pot of gold for the ones that do survive on the other side, because eventually that void will have to be filled. And one of the big advantages that I think the gyms will have will be that community aspect, because a lot of people are really, as everybody's been isolated for so long, I think that's a huge element that everybody's starved for a little bit.
Yeah, we're seeing that. So we're open against mandates right now, and we see that we see it in the evenings, but especially on Saturdays and Sundays when people come, we literally have to kick them out. Yeah. And I've got an area out front that they can spread out and talk, and they'll stay there for an hour or two after class. Yeah. And numerous people tell me the reason why they're here is for that community interaction. Yeah. One of the things that I've said throughout this pandemic, and that makes us expendable, and people get a little freaked out when I say that. Mm-hmm. And the reason why we're expendable is if we go away, right? We close as a result of all of these mandates and we shut down. If you had a crystal ball and you could look 3 years in advance and see what the future looked like, I can guarantee you, and I think everybody will agree, that there will be gyms. Yep. There will be restaurants, there will be bars, and there will be salons. Yeah. A lot of them won't be the same people. They will have moved on and gone on with different parts of their lives, but we will be backfilled. Right. And I think those types of thoughts have probably been discussed at the higher levels of our government or in our county government. They have to understand the economic impact and the impact on small business. We would hope
so, but with really some of these things, it's really tough to question. Right. Yeah.
But if I was sitting at the table and I was and considering this, those are one of the things I would consider. Okay, if we lose these businesses, what does it look like 2 years from now? What does it look like 3 years? What does it look like 5 years from now? What I fear, though, Matt, is that the backfill is corporate and cookie cutter. Right. The Peloton gym, right? And I think Peloton's an amazing device, and I love that it gets people into fitness. Right. What I dread is that I, as an independent gym owner, would have to compete with 15 Peloton gyms all around my neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And that we're corporate financed and for marketing and for recruitment and everything else, and that are essentially benefiting by putting small community gyms out of business.
Yeah. Do you think that the stranglehold on capital favoring the corporations, like you were saying, do you think there'll be much room within the next like 2 to 3 years for access for capital for a young entrepreneur wanting to start a restaurant in their community? I mean, I feel like, especially in the gym space, going back to our space, I find that at least for the next 2 years might be tough to find.
Yeah, that's a fascinating perspective. Actually, now you're depressing me because I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't thought about the stranglehold on capital. My perspective, I'll come and remind me to come back to that in case I get too far off. My perspective has been that the mandates that the state, the statements by the CDC and by the government, the U.S. government, and then also the mandates by the state and then by the county, have branded gyms and restaurants as virus carriers, unsafe places. And I would contest that that's far from the truth. And I think a lot of those notions were created as a result of anecdotal experiences many years ago when gyms were packed and you could go in there and you come out with a cold.
Yeah.
But that was many years ago.
Right.
In the last 10, 15 years, last 15 years, if you've been into a gym, you walk in, people stay away from each other.
Yeah.
They don't get next to each other. And people wipe down equipment. This is pre-pandemic. Now you go into a gym and people
hypersensitive.
are hypersensitive.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it's the culture, healthy, fit people, know what to do to stay healthy and fit. But I've had wipes in this gym and spray bottles for years.
Right.
And just because we've always tried to avoid those things, we know what and primarily because our customers demanded it. They want a clean, hygienic place to work out.
Right.
They want a clean, hygienic place to go eat. They want a clean, hygienic place to go get their hair cut.
Yeah. And that's something that's also an interesting thought, because if ultimately the market decides, right? If you're one of those gyms that say, hey, screw it, we don't do anything here. In fact, we sneeze on your face when you walk in the door kind of mentality, the market's probably going to decide not to show up there.
And that's what I tell people. There in no way do I benefit if I get a COVID breakout here.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Like it is absolutely detrimental to my business. I want to make sure that does not happen here. But we've been branded, and so I think like in the next 2 years, 3 years, these small independent business owner is going to struggle with this brand perception that they're going to have to overcome. It's like the Scarlet A.
Yeah, and it'll be a serious thing in the immediate future. It will be tough, especially as like businesses and everything else are just starting to get that wheel turning. And I think that a lot more, and this is going to be taken from some of the stuff that I'll reference here, will most likely come from the book that I'm currently listening to, which is No Rules, the Netflix story written by Reed Hastings on the culture of Netflix, on how they established it. But there is one piece, a little nugget right at the beginning, that it says that when we lead here, we lead with context, not control. And I really like that, because if I'm controlling and I say your gym is unsafe because it's a gym, it's a super spreader, and there's zero context behind that, now we have exactly what you said, which is a branding. We've been labeled as unsafe, as opposed to if they led with context and they said, hey, well, let's look at the context of the situation, what they're doing at the gym. All of a sudden you quickly realize that you're way on the other end of that spectrum, and you're probably the safest business to come to in the biggest return on investment, because you're investing in your health at a time during a pandemic when
the part that is for me has been the most troubling is the correlation without causation.
Right.
They make the statement, cases are going up, and this statement is often repeated. Cases are going up. We're going to close gyms and close restaurants. Those two sentences together are a branding. Yeah. They've essentially said cases are going up. We must close gyms, bars, restaurants, salons. Essentially says they are the reason why cases are going up, without giving any context, as you said, or without showing any data. What's most troubling, in the beginning, I understood, right? Because we associated gyms, restaurants, bars as where people come together. So that must be the reason why. But now they have sufficient contact tracing data to know whether or not the cases are happening. I have sufficient data here to make judgments for myself. So I have now over 14,000 visits since September 1st. I have over 25,000 visits since March 1st, but we closed for a period during the summer. Mm-hmm. But in the 15,000 cases since September 1st, 15,000 visits at our gym. We've had 0 cases occur here at our gym. We've had 2 cases reported to us where people got it. They had and they may have been in the gym when they had it, and then we were able to notify all of the people in their class, because we have, like you do, software that tells us who's in what class and at what time, even in open gym. Notify everybody so that they could take the precautions they needed to take. They quarantined, came back, and we had no outbreaks here.
That's the same exact thing we've found with my gym as well since June 15th.
Right.
So
same
deal.
So saying that cases are up, we need to close gyms is an unfair statement, especially if you have the contact tracing data to suggest that, well, it's not in fact happening at gyms. Back to your point, though, all the way back to your point of no capital being available, that to me is I could see that happening, right? It's difficult, as you know. You and I, but pre-pandemic, couldn't go down and get a loan and say, hey, I need $100,000 to expand my gym, or I need $100,000 to buy a building. The process for that, being a small business owner, independent business owner, is the prospect for that is very hard. It would be exceptionally hard now, given that we were branded, and that there's big corporate interests now that do have capital. The large investment companies, venture capital companies that own multiple Orange Theories or own multiple Soul Cycles, or the Pelotons who now have capital, perhaps to open up Peloton locations.
Right.
Like, those are the things that make me nervous as a CrossFit affiliate owner. So,
do you think there will be something in the pipeline as a response to that from CrossFit? Does Rose have a trick up his sleeve?
Yeah, I don't. What I think is that Eric is right now learning how he can support and grow his affiliate model. There was some discussion around franchising. I don't think that's. I've had a personal conversation with him about it, and that's not in the books. That's a massive undertaking with lots of resources necessary to gain state by state approvals for franchising, and there's a lot of regulatory issues, a lot of money that would need to be invested, a lot of more capital that would need to be raised. I think on the affiliate side, he's learning and he's pulling in the resources that he has available to him so that he can figure out how he can strengthen the ones that he has and create more that are more savvy from a business perspective. So education that can help them from the business side, maybe a business certification. I know that he's working on those things, and I'm hopeful that within the next couple of months that he's able to launch that initiative so that we can get these affiliates. I think the most important thing, Matt, is making affiliates more confident. The girl or guy that's then has made no money in the last 6 to 8 months, or maybe 10 months, and is faced with 3 months or 4 months of back rent, a customer base that's probably down 60-70%, giving them the confidence to go, you know what, if I can just hang on a little, I'm gonna make it, and then give them the tools to make it.
Do you think we'll see capital available for current existing gyms in a form of a loan from CrossFit, almost keeping it within family or house?
You just floated a great idea. I don't personally right now, no, but that's a great idea.
Yeah,
and they have been good at. One of the things that happened as a result of this, when we went into the second shutdown, or the second PPP that was available, is they immediately identified a source for capital for gyms to get the second PPP loan, and immediately put that out to affiliates, so you could apply through. Yeah, I
got that email and I saw that.
Yeah,
as well.
I didn't use that one. I stuck with the bank that I had to go through that process myself. So that is one of the tools that he may be able to to bring to bear, right?
Yeah.
Venture capitalist. He knows that business. He knows people with capital. He may be able to provide that, like a micro loan thing, right? That's the kind of thing that I think would be helpful for affiliates.
Yeah, it'd be interesting because then I also wonder too, or some sort of way where new existing gyms that were coming in, where they could help, get them up off the ground as the dust settles, and we have our new wave of affiliate owners that'll come in, more resources to get them the equipment they need sooner without the outlay of capital, and then CrossFit can almost retain some of that as the asset a little bit and just come back and take their stuff back and resell it if something didn't go right there.
Yeah, I think that's, again, another cool idea. They have to be really careful with how those types of things are structured, because they don't want to start treading into the franchise territory.
Right.
But
and that's a fine line, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Because anytime there becomes a licensee plus control equals franchise.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be interesting.
But making capital available through a third party,
right,
and making that third party an investor, like a micro company investor.
Yeah.
That's a cool idea.
In the best practices, resources. So not
Right.
necessarily things that are mandatory per se, but if you
Right.
want your gym to be successful, these are a collection of what has worked in
Right.
in a bunch of gyms.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Flipping it over to the corporate side of the gyms, you having background in the corporate world and stuff as well, if you were Planet Fitness CEO right now, what type of things would you be strategizing or thinking about?
So for a Planet Fitness or a Soul Cycle or an Orange Theory,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about. I know their biggest struggle. It's different for Planet Fitness than I think. So a instructor-led program right now,
Right.
the instructor-led programs, I know that they're under pressure right now to try and find bodies to coach and
Right.
teach.
Yeah.
All of those people have left the building and have found other gigs to pay their income. Bringing those people back or bringing new people back in to train them is going to be their highest priority, because I think those places are going to be overwhelmed. Those are brands that people recognize and know.
There'll be a ton of marketing discount stuff coming
Right.
out.
And so,
everything's behind it.
but they'll have to be careful about the marketing that they do, because if you drive too many people and you don't have enough instructors to teach the classes. So I think there's going to be a lot of jobs available for coaches.
Yeah.
There's going to be an overwhelming number of jobs available. They're going to be hunting, and they're going to try to take our trainers and coaches and bring them in. I have someone here that works that has managed multiple Orange Theories, and she's talking to me about she's already talking to me about the communication she's getting to get her to come back.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay.
Most of those places just simply laid their folks off,
Yeah.
which was an effort to reduce their costs. Planet Fitness is just going to bombard the market with advertising.
Yeah.
They will, and advertising surrounding, you need to get back, you need to get your fitness going, and by the way, we're safe.
And do you think like the market for that style of gym will come back quickly, or do you think that it's going to take a while?
I think it'll come back quickly. And by quickly, I mean over a few months, but definitely not over a year or longer.
Yeah.
I can see it here.
Yeah.
We have had some severe skeptics who told me they wouldn't be back. Finally break down, come in, and then come in very cautiously, go into the corner with their massive void, and then 1 week later, I'm having to tell them to, hey, separate, stop high-fiving people,
Right.
and go outside.
Yeah.
It literally, once they come in and they see that they don't need to be afraid, or they start to feel the results of working out, it's amazing how it just tears down barriers.
Yeah, the confidence is back, and they feel more comfortable around people in their community.
And so I think that's what we're going to see is over a couple of months, and then it's going to be hell's bells.
Yeah.
A lot of people said, well, it's going to be years before people go back to the gym. No,
I don't think so at all. Let me just check this real quick, 'cause I think it might
Yep.
be- shut off thing. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's going to come back quick. I mean, we're even as a speakeasy with everything, shut up, we're still getting people that are coming in the door, like, seeking us out. So, I mean, that's pretty much like lights off, no one's home kind of thing. And there's still people coming in the door.
That's the message I would give other CrossFit affiliates. Is that, especially those that are struggling, figure out a way to hang on for the next 3 months, to just look 3 months from now. Because I think in 3 months, everything's going to be open. Yeah. I mean, the trend is headed that direction. Hospitalizations are down. Cases seem to be coming down. Deaths are way down. Right. We're headed, and there's significant pressure on the government and local governments and state governments to get things open and get people back to work. Gyms are going to be overwhelmed, and I think it's figuring out a strategy to handle that incoming traffic. Figure out who your coaches are going to be. Reach out to your part-time coaches. Reach out to coaches you've had in the past and see if they might be interested in extra opportunities. Have that plan ready to go so you can pull the trigger, and then figure out how you're going to train all these new customers who are going to come in. Yeah. One of the things we found, Matt, I'm not sure if you did too, but in September when we opened back up, yes, we had some of our previous members come back, but we had a lot of new people come in.
Yeah, so did we.
That wanted to do CrossFit.
Right.
Specifically CrossFit.
It's that's interesting. So the and we kind of wrap on this one too. I don't want to take up too much of your time. We're just a little past 30 minutes. But so then final question as we go through is the brand power of CrossFit still going to be just as intact coming out of this pandemic? And then can we see that strengthen over the next 24 months?
My answer to that is not necessarily related to the pandemic, but the CrossFit brand is not as strong as it used to be. It has its brand value has dropped or been diluted as a result of, I think, competition from other players primarily, and from a lack of focus on the affiliates and what's happening in the affiliates and the customers of the affiliates. The number of L1s has declined significantly over the last couple of years and has been accelerated. That descent has accelerated during the pandemic. Yeah. The number of new affiliates has dropped dramatically, and the number of existing affiliates is way down. I think it's well below 10,000 live affiliates. So to answer your question, the brand has suffered, I think, fairly significantly over the last few years, and it's been which has been exacerbated by the pandemic. So there needs to be work done here. It's not lost. All is not lost, because it's an amazing methodology that works really well, and we are the only ones. We are the only ones that put a barbell in what we do. Mm-hmm. And that combination of strength plus fitness is so unique. And if Eric and his team do a good job of promoting it, we are the only ones that have this global competition. The CrossFit Open, the affiliates, it drives affiliates crazy because it's a pain in the ass to execute, but it is a unique and distinguishing characteristic of what we do here that is not available anywhere else.
That's true, and it's like having a community year-round around a 5K that's done locally in your town.
Well said.
Which we know all that excitement. And then it gives people reason to train, and
that's
they
right.
have to talk about it, and it gives that excitement through the months. And also from being from the corporate world, in the way that things are worded. Earlier we were talking about with the news kind of putting like the cases have gone up, restaurants, gyms, right behind that to create that sense of it as well too. I don't know if you saw the one that I did about the legal battle with CrossFit, a video that I made. I think you did see that one. I did. And I found it interesting. Weinstein from Eric's team there had used the word platform for fitness and health and different things. So I was curious about that, and if it's still going to be methodology driven, or do you think we're going to lean more towards platform in games experience as far as where the ROI is for Berkshire?
I personally, I think the platform word, when it first came out, I liked it and I liked the sound of it. It's also it's very marketing driven, right? From a group of tech people that have significant tech experience now coming into the CrossFit world. That word, it's obvious, it makes sense. They sat around the table with a marketing person, came up with it.
Yep.
I get it.
Yep.
And it makes sense to kind of bring in and it brings in the games, it brings in the affiliates, it brings in the individual athletes, and it
and they're positioning themselves as a platform for all that,
rather
than the root of a methodology. So
what I'm hopeful that they don't abandon is the brilliant methodology that is CrossFit, and the other thing is the principles by which we stood. That being, is making sure that health sits at the forefront of what we do. That we are curing chronic disease. We are the place, the lifeboat, right, in a sea of just absolute bullshit with respect to nutrition and fitness advice and counseling. And we're that place where people can come and get just no nonsense advice and an exercise methodology that works really fast.
Yeah. And I hope they continue to lead into that, because at first I was really turned off by that word platform. But then as I thought about it a little bit more, and then I also thought about my perspective from a newcomer coming into this, and then with the shakeup of the pandemic, it's almost like they're reaching for that next layer of customer that isn't quite there yet. And I think the term they used, which I liked the term, like CrossFit curious almost. And by using that specific language, you're kind of meeting that demographic of people that are maybe a little intimidated by it, but have been curious about it and are hearing the same verbiage that is being used with these other corporate gyms and different things like that that's in the market currently right now, to help kind of say, hey, like we're familiar as well as these other products. Come seek us.
CrossFit was accused in the past of not evolving, right? And you're right, and not meeting the customer mentality where it is.
Right.
You remember the CrossFit page, the web page, stood as a web blog for many years, and we used to be so frustrated with, holy crap, do they understand that 80% of people are looking at this thing on the phone and it looks like shit on a phone? Right? So and I think those types of improvements could have helped CrossFit in the past, and that's where I'm hopeful that, and that's why the use of the terminology, modernizing the brand and bringing it up to what current belief systems are, I think, and current marketing trends, I think, is absolutely necessary to position us for long-term growth. We look like we can adapt.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
we have to be adaptable. It is what CrossFit does, right?
Yeah.
It's what we do is in our methodology. Right. We're adapting to the stress that we put on ourselves. Through weightlifting, gymnastics, and
government tyrannies.
Yeah, that too.
All right, cool. Well, I think we'll go ahead and end it here.
Okay.
I think that was good. Is there anything else you?
No, man. I could talk for hours.
I know. Especially too. That's why I figured I won't take up any more of your.
No, Tom. I hope it's interesting enough to make you want to come back and talk again.
No, absolutely.